All right. So as we know, the OPP, other people's position, we had a big position come out. And so right in here, keep your eyes focused on here. It was so big that it washed out the scale of the 60-minute in the here. So this green bar, as you guys know, indicates a long position. The fact that it washed out everything on this 60-minute and the 15 half hour shows that it was much bigger than normal, probably about 200. And if we could take it away from probably and just back it up and say how this number grew, watch this. So right here, this is about 200, this number right here, right? And when we actually find that this order opened up a long position, 300. So this is a 300 lot position. That's why it washed out everything on the vertical from a scale standpoint. And it was a moment where it was slightly bullish above, but bearish below. We had to be very careful being long if you were below this 30 quarter. That's the price at which it came out. And so if I fast forwarded, it gets above it a little bit. And then once it gets below it right there, all bets were off and we went lower. Let me back it up a little bit. So we get below it, and we get below it with a sell pulse. It never gets rejected. Let me bring this down. Right in here, and that was the beginning, or at least the start, of a B2B bullish to bearish moment, the transitional moment, and using a price based on someone else's position as a reason for it. So you could see it, how well it worked as overhead resistance and just stayed bearish throughout and continued to just roll lower and lower. And I stopped the recording, but we even went another 10 points lower from there. So it's really important to first stay off the wrong side, and then you'll get on the right side. The wrong side would have certainly been trying to fight this thing from the long side when that big long was stuck. Now, another interesting thing, when it goes away, it either is because 60 minutes have gone, in which it would still stay here on the 15 and a half hour, or he gets filled for a winner or a loser. His offer to get out of that long position gets filled, so obviously he'd go away, or he cancels his offer. We have to assume he might have got out somewhere else, or he literally gets himself stopped out, which means he's going to go away then also. That's what happens in this sequence. And if I play it, it had right there. You see that big down move? Well, the big long position went away right when this big sell pulse, this pink box came in. So there's a really good chance that he had a sell stop below these 24.25s, which was this LVN, which was the VWAP. And so that's where he got stopped out. And it's also important to see if we could stay at or below where he gets stopped out for continuation to the downside, which happened to be the case. So it kind of reconfirms a level. But 540, not all of those is his 300, obviously, but he was wrapped up with some with a sell stop that must have been attached to his position, because once that got filled, it probably cancel his offer above, and therefore he's going to go away like he should as far as what our charts show. So this is the most unique look at the market, because we're taking the MBO data, filtering it strategically to not just accurately assume, but know where there's a sample size of longs and shorts. And anybody who's been in here for any period of time, you can't wonder what that is, what that means, and where it's shown. You got to know that like the back of your hand. If you're watching this video for the first time, chances are you don't even know the value of knowing other people's position, which means you should go become a plumber, because you have no business trading if you don't have an idea of why price moves in the first place. And a lot of people don't. They'll trade and risk their money. Like, would you go to a doctor who never went to med school to let him operate on you, never went to a day of med school? Of course you wouldn't. But people are allowed to trade their own money, which is fine. They should be able to, without ever educating themselves. Now, I don't want to get off on a tangent, because you don't know what you don't know, and it's not your fault for not learning the right stuff first, because there's a million rabbit holes. And so I went down a couple rabbit holes in 1997, 98, before the internet took off, and there were still rabbit holes. I can get into that in another video, but it's not your fault. But at some point, you better hope to find people that are going to give you the best chance at being able to do this, or how else you're going to learn. Now let's get back to the highlight really quick. When we go and look at the screen share, when you go and come back to the reason why nobody should have been long is look at the congestion box that's clearly being shown here. All right. When we start to break out, you're getting people on which side to get anxious and start to climb over each other to get out. What position? Well, long positions. They're getting anxious because a lot of them are like, I'm not wrong in this long position and idea until we get below here. For those that don't get out, they become the ones that chase it and facilitate lower prices. The longs are the ones that get anxious below the bottom of what we call congestion boxes or ranges, whatever word you want to use. But most people do not read a chart and force their eyes to always look at that yellow shade I just put on there. Your eyes should always just assume what that yellow shade is. That's one of the first things you kind of should try to pick off when you're looking at a chart of anything, is where are the highs and the lows of a more recent range, in order to see where the herd's going to start getting nervous and crapping their pants. So a couple other things that is really important in this session for context. This, for a lot of profilers, if you look at this line, is what's called an LVN or low volume node. I'm not a big profiler. I like to use it to see where they're going to get trapped, where they're going to make mistakes. And then if you are going to use profile levels, which is great, you got to still qualify them. Everybody in here who uses profile qualifies it. They don't use profile just like it's written in the book, because that's not going to get you consistent. So anyhow, this is a popular, if you look at the screen share, level that people like to use as support. Great. Another line, which is called the VWAP, which isn't bad, but it's a popular profile-esque line in the sand. So you got popular support coming in here, and a lot of people don't understand the context of what's above it when it's coming down into your support. And most profilers don't have a good fire in their ready aim fire progression. They don't have a qualifier or disqualifier. So what we were saying as it moves into here is people are going to most likely, or there's a probability that they're going to leave their orders in the book to get long and be on the railroad tracks and get run over. I don't care if the train's moving slow or fast. If it's moving and doesn't stop, it's going to kill you. So when you get a popular place for support, I'm not saying fade it. I'm saying be very careful, going with the crowd on that one, because if it doesn't work, it doesn't work for a lot of people. And that's when you want to start thinking the opposite. So when we get into this spot, you look at market comes in. I'll fast forward it. When it comes into here, it really never goes down there and bounces. Once it gets into this 23, 24 area where my cursor is, it just chops through it, never comes up for air, and give anybody a chance to get out of a long position that they would have taken. And the market just slides lower. I stopped the recording, but the market just blasts through there. And what it did on this particular session, if you're watching this video at some point in the future, it's July 26, 2023, 27, July 27, 2023. Go back and look and see how this dumb support is then great resistance. We'll call it dumb support. Why is it dumb? Too popular. People are long, comes up, and what we refer to as the baby bird story. Baby bird story means what? People who are helpless. I'm not going to get into that story, but it's the rationale and the dynamic of what makes support, or resistance in this case, work. So again, all this stuff could be broken into videos and everything else that we have on the website. And so that's the highlight that we had in real time from the trading room today. I'm going to get into the tip of the day. I'm not going to record those, but we'll get into the tip of the day now for Edge members.